The Galactic Combat Academy stood tall against the purple sky of Kepler 442b. Its massive towers reached toward the stars, each one dedicated to training the best warriors from across the galaxy. The Academy was famous throughout the Allied Species Coalition. Only the strongest and smartest beings from hundreds of worlds could earn a place here. Commander HFY walked through the training halls with his forearms swinging in perfect rhythm. The Tathari officer had been teaching combat for 30 years. His blue-scaled skin showed scars from countless battles, and his golden eyes held the wisdom of experience. Students from every corner of known space respected and feared him in equal measure. Today's class was special. 12 different species had gathered in Training Hall 7 for advanced weapons instruction. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and polished metal floors that could withstand the most powerful energy weapons. Weapon racks lined the walls, filled with swords, staffs, blasters, and exotic tools from every member world of the Coalition. The students stood in neat rows, each representing their species with pride. The Kethmori cadets glittered like living diamonds, their crystalline bodies catching the light. Their natural armor made them nearly indestructible, but they moved with surprising grace. Next to them stood the Velteran, tall and elegant with silver skin that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Their enhanced reflexes made them deadly with any weapon they touched. The massive Graxnoid students towered over everyone else. Their thick, rocky hides could stop a laser blast, and their enormous hands could crush steel. They preferred heavy weapons that matched their incredible strength. Smaller species like the insect-like Zekta buzzed nervously, their compound eyes tracking every movement in the room. And then there was Marcus Chen, the only human in the class. Marcus looked ordinary compared to his alien classmates. He had no natural armor, no enhanced reflexes, no extra arms or special abilities. His brown hair was cut short in military style, and his dark eyes watched everything with quiet intelligence. At average height and build, he seemed almost fragile next to the others. The other students often wondered why a human had been accepted into the academy. Earth was a new member of the Coalition, barely 50 years since first contact. Humans had no great military victories, no legendary warriors, no special biological advantages. They were just normal. Commander HFY called the class to attention. His voice echoed through the hall, commanding respect from every species present. "Today we study the fundamental laws of combat," he announced, his forearms gesturing to the weapon displays. "These laws have been tested across millions of battles, proven by the greatest military minds in the galaxy." He walked to a rack containing energy swords, their blue plasma blades humming softly. The first and most important law concerns dual-weapon combat. No species in known space possesses the neural coordination required to effectively wield two weapons simultaneously. The commander picked up a single sword, its energy crackling along the blade. Your brain can focus on one weapon. It can calculate distance, timing, balance, and defense while controlling a single tool of war. This is how every successful warrior fights. A Kethmori student raised one crystalline hand. "What about species with multiple arms, sir?" "Excellent question, Cadet Reshka." HFY smiled, showing his pointed teeth. "Even I with forearms cannot effectively dual-wield. Additional limbs are useful for carrying equipment, operating controls, or providing extra strength. But the brain cannot split its combat calculations between two independent weapons." He moved to the center of the room, demonstrating basic sword forms. Each movement was precise and controlled, the result of decades of training. The neural pathways required for combat are incredibly complex. Distance judgment, threat assessment, balance compensation, muscle memory coordination, all of this happens in milliseconds. Attempting to do this with two weapons creates cognitive overload. The warrior becomes confused, unfocused, and vulnerable. A Graxnoid cadet rumbled a question. "Has any species ever tried dual-wielding, Commander?" "Many have attempted it," HFY replied. The Velteran tested it extensively due to their enhanced reflexes. Even they found it impossible. The brain simply cannot process the mathematical complexity required for true dual-weapon mastery. Marcus raised his hand slowly. The gesture caught everyone's attention because humans rarely spoke in class. "What about humans, sir?" The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in various sounds of alien amusement. The Zekta chittered. The Velteran made a sound like wind chimes, and the Graxnoids produced deep rumbling laughs. Even some of his classmates tried to hide their entertainment. Commander HFY held up a hand for silence, but his expression was patient rather than angry. Cadet Chen, I appreciate your curiosity. However, humans are among the most recent species to join the coalition. Your people have no significant military history, no special biological advantages, and certainly no abilities that surpass those of species like the Veltaran or my own people. But have humans been tested? Marcus asked quietly. There is no need, the commander replied with scientific certainty. Dr. Cassandra, our leading expert in combat biomechanics, has studied every known species in the galaxy. The neural architecture required for dual-wielding simply does not exist in any biological form. It would require enhanced cross-hemisphere brain communication, true ambidextrous capability, and adaptive motor cortex plasticity far beyond what any species possesses. Marcus nodded but didn't look convinced. The other students exchanged glances, some still chuckling at the human's naive question. Commander HFY continued the lesson, demonstrating advanced single-weapon techniques. He showed how proper footwork created balance, how breathing controlled timing, and how focus sharpened reflexes. Each movement was perfect, the result of thousands of hours of practice. Remember, he said as he finished a complex series of strikes, mastery comes from understanding your limitations. Work within your biological capabilities and you will become a great warrior. Try to exceed them and you will fail. The class practiced their forms for the remainder of the session. Each species used weapons suited to their natural abilities. The Kethamori worked with precision blades, their crystalline bodies allowing perfect balance. The Veltaran flowed through combat like dancers, their silver skin rippling with each movement. The Graxnoids wielded massive warhammers, their strength making the heavy weapons seem light as feathers. Marcus practiced with a standard plasma sword, his movements competent, but unremarkable. His human biology gave him no special advantages. He was not as strong as a Graxnoid, not as fast as a Veltaran, not as precise as a Kethamori. He looked like exactly what the others expected, an average warrior from an average species. As the class ended, students began storing their weapons and filing out of the training hall. Marcus lingered, watching as the others left. Commander HFY noticed the human's hesitation. Is there something troubling you, Cadet Chen? The instructor asked. Marcus looked at the weapon racks, his gaze settling on the rows of energy swords. Commander, you said no species has the neural architecture for dual-wielding. But how do we know what humans can do if we've never been tested? HFY's expression softened slightly. He had seen this before in young warriors, the desire to be special, to exceed expectations. Cadet, I understand your desire to prove yourself. But science is science. The laws of combat biomechanics apply to all species, including humans. Define can't, Marcus said quietly. The commander tilted his head, confused by the strange human phrase. I'm sorry? When you say something can't be done, Marcus explained, what exactly do you mean? That it's never been tried? That it's theoretically impossible? Or that no one has figured out how yet? HFY studied the human for a long moment. There was something in the young man's eyes. Not arrogance or foolishness, but genuine curiosity. It reminded him of his early days as a warrior, when everything seemed possible. The science is clear, Cadet Chen, he said finally. But if you wish to attempt a demonstration after tomorrow's class, I will observe. Perhaps seeing the impossibility firsthand will help you understand. Marcus smiled. Thank you, sir. I'd like that very much. As the human left the training hall, Commander HFY watched him go with a mixture of curiosity and concern. In 30 years of teaching, he had learned to recognize different types of students. Some were naturally gifted, others worked harder to compensate for limitations. But Marcus Chen was different somehow. The commander made a mental note to contact Dr. Cassandra after tomorrow's demonstration. It might be interesting to get detailed scans of human neural activity during combat, even if the results were predictable. Science always benefited from thorough documentation, even of failures. He had no idea that tomorrow would change everything he thought he knew about the nature of warfare itself. The next day arrived with the usual bustle of academy life. Students from dozens of species hurried through corridors, attending lectures on strategy, weapons maintenance, and galactic politics. But word had spread about the strange human who thought he could dual-wield, and Training Hall 7 was more crowded than usual. Marcus arrived early, as he always did. He stood quietly near the weapon racks, studying the plasma swords with careful attention. The weapons were standard Coalition issue, perfectly balanced, reliable, and designed for single-handed use. Each one hummed with contained energy, the blue plasma contained within a magnetic field that could cut through almost any material. Other students began filtering into the hall. Some came for the regular lesson, but others had heard about the demonstration and wanted to watch the human embarrass himself. They whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages, but the meaning was clear in every tongue. The human thinks he can do what no species has ever accomplished. This should be entertaining. Poor creature doesn't understand basic biology. Commander HFY entered with his usual military bearing, but today he was followed by several other instructors. Word of the demonstration had reached the Academy's senior staff, and they were curious to observe this unusual event. The commander had also sent a message to Dr. Cassandra, though he didn't expect her to attend such a routine display of student failure. "Class, attention," HFY called out. The room immediately fell silent, every species showing respect in their own way. Today we will continue our study of single weapon mastery. But first, Cadet Chen has requested an opportunity to demonstrate something. Cadet, please step forward. Marcus walked to the center of the hall, his movement calm and confident. He showed no signs of nervousness despite being watched by dozens of aliens who expected him to fail. The other instructors observed with clinical interest, ready to document another proof of established scientific law. Cadet Chen believes that humans might possess the ability to dual-wield effectively, Commander HFY announced. As I explained yesterday, this is scientifically impossible. However, a demonstration will serve as an excellent learning opportunity about the importance of understanding biological limitations. Marcus nodded respectfully. With your permission, Commander, I'd like to try. Permission granted. Please select your weapons. The human walked to the plasma sword rack with steady steps. He examined several weapons before choosing 2 identical swords from the center of the display. The weapons came to life in his hands, their blue energy casting shadows across his face. The watching students leaned forward with anticipation. Most expected to see clumsy, uncontrolled movements that would prove the commander's point. A few hoped the human might surprise them, though they couldn't imagine how. Marcus held the swords naturally, one in each hand. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a moment as if centering himself. When he opened them again, something had changed. The casual, ordinary human was gone, replaced by something else entirely. He began to move. The first thing that shocked everyone was how natural it looked. There was no awkward fumbling, no confusion between left and right hands. Marcus flowed through combat forms with liquid precision, each sword moving independently yet in perfect harmony with its partner. His left hand performed a high guard, while his right swept low. The movements weren't random. They were part of a complex defensive pattern that would have stopped attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. He spun, bringing both blades around in crossing strikes that would have devastated any opponent caught between them. Commander HFY's forearms began to tremble slightly. In 30 years of combat instruction, he had never seen anything like this. The human wasn't just waving 2 swords around. He was demonstrating advanced techniques that should have been neurologically impossible. Marcus continued his demonstration, showing defensive spirals where both swords moved in synchronized circles, creating an impenetrable barrier around his body. He performed simultaneous parries, blocking imaginary attacks from 2 different directions at exactly the same moment. His footwork was flawless, maintaining perfect balance despite the complex upper body movements. But what truly astounded the watching aliens was how controlled everything looked. There was no wasted motion, no struggle to coordinate between hands. Each sword seemed to know exactly where the other was at all times, working together like parts of a single weapon. The Veltaran students watched with growing amazement. Their species prided itself on enhanced reflexes and fluid movement, but even they couldn't process what they were seeing. The human was performing calculations that their advanced biology couldn't handle. A Kethmori cadet whispered to her neighbor, "Look at his brain scans." She was naturally able to sense electromagnetic fields, and what she detected from the human's neural activity was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. Both hemispheres of his brain were working in perfect coordination, processing multiple data streams simultaneously. Marcus transitioned into more advanced techniques. He demonstrated how dual-wielding allowed for attack multiplication. While one sword engaged an enemy's weapon, the other could strike from an unexpected angle. He showed defensive redundancy, where losing one weapon didn't leave him helpless because the second could instantly adapt to new circumstances. Most impressive was his demonstration of unpredictable attack patterns. With a single weapon, an enemy could predict the general direction of assault. But with two independent weapons, Marcus created chaos that would have overwhelmed any traditional defense. The watching instructors began whispering among themselves. This wasn't just unusual, it was revolutionary. Everything they knew about combat doctrine was being challenged by a single human with two swords. Commander HFY stepped forward, his scientific certainty cracking. "Cadet Chen, stop!" Marcus immediately ceased his movements, standing at attention with both swords still humming in his hands. He wasn't even breathing heavily despite the complex physical demands of his demonstration. "How?" the commander asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sir, how is this possible? Our best scientists have proven that no species possesses the neural architecture required for what you just demonstrated." Marcus considered the question carefully. "Commander, maybe your scientists never tested the right species." Before HFY could respond, the hall's main door burst open. Dr. Cassandra rushed in, her multiple sensor arrays already scanning the room. The Corvini scientist's tentacled head writhed with excitement as her instruments detected the residual energy patterns from Marcus's demonstration. "Don't stop," she called out, her translator converting her rapid speech into standard Galactic. "Whatever you were doing, continue immediately. I need full sensor readings." Commander HFY gestured to Marcus. "Show her." The human resumed his demonstration, this time moving even more fluidly as he warmed up. Dr. Cassandra's sensors whirred and clicked, recording every aspect of his performance. Her expressions grew increasingly agitated as the data poured in. "Impossible," she muttered, then louder. "Absolutely impossible." But the evidence was undeniable. Her instruments showed perfect bilateral brain coordination, enhanced motor cortex activity, and neural pathways that shouldn't exist in any known species. The human was doing exactly what every scientific model said couldn't be done. Marcus finished with a complex sequence that involved spinning both swords in opposite directions while maintaining a defensive stance. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a display of martial capability that redefined what biological beings could accomplish. As he powered down the weapons and returned them to their rack, the hall remained completely silent. Students and instructors alike struggled to process what they had witnessed. Dr. Cassandra was the first to speak. "Cadet Chen, I need to scan your brain immediately. This neural activity pattern is unlike anything in our databases." "Of course, Doctor," Marcus replied politely. Commander HFY found his voice. "Cadet, where did you learn these techniques?" Marcus smiled slightly. "I didn't learn them here, sir. I learned them on Earth." "But Earth has no military tradition," one of the other instructors protested. "Your species only recently achieved spaceflight." "We may not have space battles," Marcus said, "but we've been fighting each other for thousands of years. Every culture on Earth developed its own fighting styles. Some of those styles used two weapons. Some?" Dr. Cassandra asked sharply. "Many," Marcus corrected. "Japanese samurai used two swords. European fighters paired rapiers with daggers. Filipino martial arts specialized in paired weapons. African combat styles, Chinese kung fu, Indian fighting techniques. Dozens of cultures independently developed dual wielding because it works. The implications hit everyone at once. While other species had evolved toward specialized single weapon mastery, humans had spent millennia perfecting the art of fighting with multiple weapons. Their entire martial tradition was built around adaptability and the multiplication of force. Commander HFY sank into a nearby chair, his forearms hanging limply. "We need to contact High Command immediately," he said quietly. "Everything we know about combat doctrine may need to be reconsidered." Dr. Cassandra was already connecting to the Academy's main computer. "I'm requesting emergency consultation with the Coalition's top military strategists. If humans can dual-wield Doctor." Cassandra's laboratory buzzed with activity through the night. The Corvini scientist had converted her entire research facility into a scanning center, bringing in equipment from across the Academy to study the impossible human. Her tentacles moved frantically between displays, analyzing data that challenged everything the scientific community believed about combat biology. Marcus sat patiently in the scanning chamber, electrodes attached to his skull while sophisticated sensors mapped his brain activity. The equipment was designed to study the most complex neural systems in known space. But the readings from the human's mind were unlike anything in the databases. Extraordinary. Dr. Cassandra muttered, her translator working overtime to keep up with her rapid speech. Look at these cross-hemisphere communication patterns. The connection between your left and right brain is incredibly advanced. She gestured to a three-dimensional display showing Marcus's brain in real time. Streams of light represented neural activity, and the pattern was beautiful in its complexity. Most species showed distinct separation between brain hemispheres, with limited communication bridges. But the human brain displayed constant high-speed information sharing between both sides. This explains the ambidextrous capability, she continued, recording her observations. Most species favor one side of their body because one brain hemisphere dominates motor control, but your neural architecture allows true bilateral coordination. Commander Zephyhi entered the laboratory, followed by Admiral Corvex, the Academy's commanding officer. The Threnody Admiral's crystalline form reflected the lab's lights as he studied the displays with interest. Doctor, what are your preliminary findings? The Admiral asked. Dr. Cassandra turned to face them, her excitement barely contained. Admiral, we're looking at a completely unique neural architecture. The human brain possesses enhanced cross-hemisphere communication, genuine ambidextrous potential, and adaptive motor cortex plasticity that exceeds any known species. But how is this possible? Commander Zephyhi asked. Our evolutionary models show that specialized development should favor single-tool mastery. That's where it gets interesting, Marcus spoke up from the scanning chair. Earth was different from most worlds. We never developed as a single species in a controlled environment. Our planet was hostile, divided, and constantly changing. Dr. Cassandra nodded enthusiastically. I've been reviewing Earth's historical databases. The evolutionary pressure on humans was unlike anything we've encountered. Instead of developing specialized advantages like armor, claws, or enhanced reflexes, humans developed adaptability. She brought up new displays showing Earth's history. Images of ancient battlefields, medieval warfare, and modern conflicts filled the screens. Look at this pattern. While other species perfected single fighting styles over millennia, humans were constantly at war with each other. Every culture developed different techniques. Admiral Corvex studied the historical data with growing interest. Show me these dual-wielding techniques. Marcus gestured to the displays, which now showed human warriors from different time periods. Japanese samurai used katana and wakizashi together, the longer sword for main attacks, the shorter for close defense and surprise strikes. European fencers paired rapiers with daggers, using the dagger to trap enemy blades while the rapier delivered killing blows. More images appeared. Filipino fighters with paired sticks, African warriors with dual spears, Chinese martial artists wielding twin swords. Each culture had independently discovered the advantages of dual wielding and refined the techniques over centuries. But this is just the beginning, Marcus continued. Humans didn't just dual-wield swords. We paired everything. Pistols, rifles, shields, and weapons, even tools. Our entire development was based on using whatever we had available, in whatever combination worked. Dr. Cassandra pulled up more data. The neural scans confirm this. The human brain doesn't just coordinate two weapons. It's designed for tool multiplicity. Marcus, demonstrate your weapons familiarity. Marcus smiled. What do you want to see? Can you dual-wield other weapons besides swords? Of course. Plasma rifles, energy hammers, gravity shields, neural disruptors. If it can be held in one hand, humans can probably dual-wield it. Admiral Corvex's crystalline form shifted, indicating surprise. Are you saying humans can adapt dual-wielding to any weapon system? With training, yes, sir. The neural pathways are already there. We just need to learn the specific coordination patterns for each weapon type. Commander Zephyhi sank into a chair. Admiral, do you understand what this means for coalition military doctrine? The Admiral was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. Doctor, how quickly could we test human dual-wielding with other weapon systems? Immediately, Dr. Cassandra replied. I've already contacted the Weapons Development Division. They're preparing test versions of every coalition standard weapon in dual-wielding configurations. Within hours, the laboratory had been converted into a testing facility. Marcus worked through weapon system after weapon system, demonstrating dual-wielding techniques with plasma rifles, energy shields, gravity hammers, and exotic weapons that most species needed both hands to operate. Each test revealed new advantages. Dual plasma rifles allowed for covering fire while one weapon recharged. Paired energy shields created overlapping defensive fields that were nearly impenetrable. Twin gravity hammers could manipulate battlefield terrain in ways that single weapons couldn't achieve. But the most shocking discovery came when Marcus paired different weapon types. A plasma rifle in one hand and an energy shield in the other created a combination of offense and defense that was incredibly effective. A neural disruptor paired with a gravity hammer allowed for crowd control and precision strikes simultaneously. "This is revolutionary," Admiral Korvex said, watching Marcus demonstrate advanced techniques. "Our current doctrine assumes every warrior uses a single primary weapon with possible backup systems. But if humans can effectively dual-wield, they could serve as force multipliers." Dr. Cassandra was recording everything. "Admiral, I need to expand this study. If one human can do this, what about training programs for other humans? And what about teaching simplified dual-wielding techniques to other species?" "Explain." Marcus's brain shows the optimal architecture for dual-wielding, but other species might be able to learn basic techniques. Not full mastery, but enough to gain some advantages. They brought in volunteer students from different species. Under Marcus's instruction, the results were surprising. The Kethmori, with their natural precision, could learn synchronized strikes. The Veltaran adapted flowing defensive patterns to their enhanced reflexes. Even the massive Graxnoids found ways to use paired weapons effectively. None of them achieved Marcus's level of mastery, but every species showed improvement when incorporating human dual-wielding concepts into their fighting styles. "This isn't just about humans," Commander Zephi realized. "Marcus, you're not just demonstrating dual-wielding. You're showing us a completely different approach to combat itself." Marcus nodded. "That's what humans do, sir. We adapt. When other species developed specialized advantages, we developed the ability to learn and combine techniques from everywhere. Dual-wielding isn't special to us. It's just one example of how we approach problems." Admiral Korvex was already connecting to Coalition High Command. "I need to brief the Supreme Military Council immediately. This discovery could change the balance of power in our conflicts with hostile species." Dr. Cassandra interrupted. "Admiral, there's something else. I've been analyzing human historical databases, and dual-wielding is just the beginning. Humans have developed techniques for fighting with multiple opponents in zero gravity, underwater, in extreme environments that would kill most species. Their entire military evolution was built around adaptability." "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I'm saying that humans might be the most naturally gifted warriors in the galaxy, and we never knew it because we were measuring them against the wrong standards." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this revelation. The species that other races had dismissed as ordinary generalists were actually masters of adaptation itself. Their lack of specialized advantages hadn't made them weak. It had made them infinitely flexible. Marcus cleared his throat. "There's one more thing you should know." "What?" Admiral Korvex asked. "I'm not particularly skilled by human standards. I learned basic dual-wielding in high school martial arts class. There are humans who could do things that would make today's demonstration look like a beginner's lesson." Commander Zephi gripped his chair with all four arms. "How much more skilled? Some humans train their entire lives in combat arts. Some develop their own fighting styles. Some combine techniques from multiple martial traditions to create something entirely new. And some..." Marcus paused. "Some humans were soldiers before joining the Coalition. They have real combat experience." Admiral Korvex was already sending priority messages to Fleet Command. The Coalition needed to completely reassess human capabilities, and they needed to do it quickly. If humans could revolutionize combat doctrine. 3 days later, the Academy's Grand Arena filled with the most important military officials in Coalition space. Representatives from every member species had arrived to witness what High Command was calling the most significant military demonstration in galactic history. The massive amphitheater, normally used for graduation ceremonies, now hosted admirals, generals, and strategic analysts from hundreds of worlds. Admiral Korvex stood at the center of the arena floor. his crystalline form reflecting the lights of recording devices and sensor arrays. Behind him, Marcus waited calmly in a simple academy uniform, showing no signs of nervousness despite being watched by the most powerful beings in known space. "Distinguished colleagues," Admiral Corvex began, his voice carried by translators to every species present. "3 days ago, a single human cadet challenged our fundamental understanding of combat capabilities. Today we will demonstrate why every military doctrine in the Coalition may need to be reconsidered." In the elevated seating, Supreme Admiral Thexra of the Domination Fleet leaned forward with interest. The ancient Korthani warrior had commanded Coalition forces for over a century, and his tactical genius was legendary throughout the galaxy. If anyone could understand the implications of what they were about to see, it was him. "Begin the demonstration," Admiral Corvex commanded. Marcus walked to the weapon displays that had been specially prepared for this event. The arena floor contained examples of every major weapon system used by Coalition forces: plasma swords, energy rifles, gravity hammers, neural disruptors, force shields, and exotic weapons from dozens of different worlds. "First demonstration, standard dual wielding with matched weapons," Admiral Corvex announced. Marcus selected 2 plasma swords, their familiar blue energy coming to life. But this time, instead of the relatively simple techniques he had shown in class, he performed combat forms designed for actual warfare. He moved through patterns that would devastate multiple opponents, showing how dual wielding created attack vectors that were impossible to defend against with traditional methods. The watching military officers recognized the implications immediately. Standard Coalition doctrine assumed enemies would attack from predictable angles with single weapons, but a dual-wielding opponent could strike from 2 directions simultaneously, overwhelming conventional defenses. Second demonstration, mixed weapon combinations, the Admiral continued. Marcus set down the swords and selected a plasma rifle and an energy shield. He demonstrated how the combination allowed for continuous offensive capability while maintaining strong defense. As one weapon fired, the shield could block return fire, and when the rifle needed to recharge, the shield could be used offensively. General Coxtar of the Graxnoid Heavy Infantry whistled appreciatively. His species prided itself on battlefield dominance, but even they had never considered such tactical flexibility. Third demonstration, adaptive weapon use, Admiral Corvex announced. This was the demonstration that truly shocked the audience. Marcus moved through the weapon displays, picking up different tools and immediately incorporating them into fluid combat patterns. He paired a gravity hammer with a neural disruptor, using the hammer to control terrain while the disruptor targeted specific enemies. He combined force projectors with plasma grenades, creating area denial while maintaining offensive capability. But what amazed the watching officers was how natural it all looked. Marcus wasn't struggling to coordinate different weapon systems. He was adapting instantly to whatever tools were available, finding optimal combinations in real time. Supreme Admiral Thexra stood up slowly, his ancient voice carrying across the arena. "Cadet Chen, stop!" Marcus immediately ceased his demonstration and stood at attention. "Young human," the Supreme Admiral continued, his words translated into dozens of languages, "what you have shown us defies every principle of combat theory. How is this possible?" "Sir, humans develop differently than most species," Marcus replied respectfully. "We never had the luxury of specializing in one type of warfare. Our planet was divided into hundreds of different cultures, each fighting with different techniques and weapons. To survive, we had to learn to adapt to anything." "Show me," the Admiral commanded. Marcus gestured to the arena's display systems. "Computer, please show historical human combat techniques." The arena's holographic projectors came to life, displaying scenes from Earth's military history. Ancient warriors with swords and shields fought alongside archers. Medieval knights faced pikemen while crossbow bolts filled the air. Modern soldiers coordinated rifles, grenades, and support weapons in complex tactical formations. "Every human conflict taught us new lessons," Marcus explained as the images changed. "When one weapon failed, we developed another. When enemies adapted to our tactics, we created new ones. Our entire military evolution was based on the principle that adaptation is more valuable than specialization." General Vexhai of the Velteran Strategic Corps stood up. "Are you saying that all humans possess this adaptive capability?" To varying degrees, yes, sir. Some humans specialize in specific weapon types, but most of us learn multiple fighting styles. It's part of our basic military training. The implications hit the assembled officers like a shockwave. The coalition had been treating humans as unremarkable generalists, suitable for support roles and basic infantry. But if every human possessed advanced adaptive capabilities, they represented an enormous untapped military resource. Supreme Admiral Thexra descended to the arena floor, his massive form moving with surprising grace. Cadet Chen, I want you to demonstrate something specific. Show me how human techniques could be taught to other species. Yes, sir. Marcus gestured to the viewing areas. Could I have volunteers from different species? Within minutes, representatives from major coalition military forces had joined Marcus on the arena floor. A Kethmori crystalline warrior, a Veltaran speedfighter, a Graxnoid heavy trooper, a Zekta scout, and even a young Threnodi officer. Marcus began with basic concepts, teaching each species how to adapt dual-wielding to their natural advantages. The Kethmori learned precision strikes with paired energy blades. The Veltaran mastered flowing defensive patterns with matched weapons. The Graxnoid discovered how to wield two heavy weapons simultaneously, doubling their already formidable striking power. Most impressive was how quickly they learned. Within an hour, species that had never considered dual-wielding were demonstrating basic techniques. They weren't achieving Marcus's level of mastery, but they were gaining real tactical advantages. Remarkable, Supreme Admiral Thexra observed. The human is not just demonstrating superior capability, he is teaching evolution of combat doctrine itself. Admiral Corvex nodded. Supreme Admiral, our preliminary analysis suggests that integrating human techniques could increase coalition combat effectiveness by 30 to 50%. What about our enemies? Asked General Mordak of the Frontier Defense Forces. How do we know hostile species haven't developed similar capabilities? Marcus answered. Sir, Dr. Kessiandra's research suggests that the specific evolutionary pressures that created human adaptability are extremely rare. Most species develop in more stable environments, leading to specialization rather than adaptation. Dr. Kessiandra stepped forward from the Scientific Observers section. Supreme Admiral, we've analyzed over 300 species in coalition databases. None show the neural architecture patterns that enable human-level adaptation. This appears to be a unique evolutionary development. Supreme Admiral Thexra walked among the volunteers, observing their newly learned techniques. Doctor, what would be required to implement human training methods across coalition forces? Immediate establishment of joint training programs, she replied. Human instructors working with traditional military academies. Weapons development focused on dual-wielding optimization and comprehensive tactical doctrine revision. Timeline? 6 months for basic implementation. 2 years for full integration across major military units. The Supreme Admiral turned to face the assembled officers. The decision is clear. We will immediately begin integration of human combat techniques into coalition doctrine. Admiral Corvex, you will oversee the transition program. Yes, Supreme Admiral. Cadet Chen, the ancient warrior continued. You will be promoted to instructor status and assigned to develop the curriculum for human adaptive combat training. Marcus saluted crisply. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you. I believe you will exceed our expectations, as your species has already done. As the demonstration concluded and officials began discussing implementation details, word spread throughout coalition space. Emergency military conferences were scheduled on dozens of worlds. Weapons manufacturers began retooling production lines for dual-wielding optimization. Military academies requested human instructors, but the most significant change was in how other species viewed humans themselves. The unremarkable generalists from a small planet had revealed themselves to be master warriors whose entire civilization was built around the principles of adaptive warfare. In the space of 1 week, humans had gone from being support troops to being the most valuable military asset in the galaxy. Every hostile species that had dismissed human capabilities would need to recalculate their strategic assessments. Marcus stood in the now empty arena, looking at the weapon displays that would soon be redesigned around Human Kong 6 months later. The Galactic Combat Academy looked completely different. New training halls had been constructed specifically for dual-wielding instruction. Weapon racks throughout the facility now held matched pairs of every coalition weapon system. Most importantly, human instructors worked alongside alien combat masters, creating the most advanced military training program in galactic history. Instructor Marcus Chen stood in Training Hall 12, watching as a mixed class of coalition officers practiced techniques that would have been considered impossible just months before. A Kethmori colonel worked with paired plasma rifles, her crystalline precision allowing for devastating accurate fire from both weapons simultaneously. A Graxnoid major demonstrated how to wield 2 gravity hammers, creating localized battlefield control that was beyond anything his species had previously achieved. Remember, Marcus called out to the class, adaptation is more important than perfection. If one technique doesn't work, try another. If one weapon fails, switch to a different combination. The goal is to always have options. Commander Zeph High entered the hall, but his role had changed dramatically. The former weapons instructor was now Marcus's assistant, helping to bridge the gap between traditional coalition doctrine and revolutionary human techniques. His forearms made him particularly skilled at demonstrating complex weapon combinations. How are they progressing? Zeph High asked quietly. Better than expected, Marcus replied, watching as a Veltaran captain flowed through defensive patterns with matched energy shields. Most species can master basic dual wielding within a few weeks. Advanced techniques take longer, but everyone shows improvement. The results spoke for themselves. Coalition forces equipped with dual-wielding training were achieving victory ratios that exceeded all projections. The recent border conflicts with the hegemony raiders had ended in decisive coalition victories, largely due to the tactical advantages provided by adaptive combat techniques. Instructor Chen called out Captain Reshka, the Kethmori officer. I'm having trouble coordinating the plasma rifle recharge cycles. Marcus walked over to observe her technique. You're trying to synchronize both weapons. Remember, the advantage of dual wielding is that they don't have to work together all the time. Let one weapon recharge while the other provides cover fire, then switch roles. Captain Reshka adjusted her technique, and immediately her accuracy improved. The crystalline warrior's natural precision, combined with human tactical concepts, made her incredibly effective. Excellent, Marcus nodded. Now try adding movement. Don't stand still and shoot. Advance while firing. Retreat while covering. Use terrain to your advantage. Across the hall, Major Graxtor was demonstrating his newly learned techniques to a group of junior officers from his own species. The massive warrior had become an unexpected convert to human methods, enthusiastically teaching dual wielding to anyone willing to learn. See how the second hammer creates opportunities the first couldn't achieve, he explained to his students. Traditional single-weapon doctrine assumes linear engagement, but with paired weapons we can create chaos that overwhelms enemy responses. Dr. Cassiandra entered the training hall, her sensor arrays constantly recording data on the various species' adaptation to human techniques. Her research had evolved far beyond simple neural analysis. She was now documenting the emergence of entirely new fighting styles as different species combined their natural abilities with human concepts. Instructor Chen, she called out. I have the latest reports from Fleet Command. Marcus joined her near the observation area, where holographic displays showed battle statistics from across coalition space. The numbers were impressive. Casualty rates down by 40%, mission success rates up by 60%, and enemy retreat frequencies increased dramatically. More importantly, Dr. Cassandra continued, intelligence reports suggest that hostile species are struggling to adapt to our new tactics. The hegemony raiders have requested ceasefire negotiations, and the Void Hunters have pulled back from 3 contested systems. Why? Marcus asked, though he suspected the answer. Because they don't understand what they're facing. For centuries, they've planned their strategies around predictable coalition combat patterns, single-weapon specialists, rigid tactical doctrine, specialized unit types. But now our forces are adapting faster than their intelligence networks can track. Commander Zeph High joined their conversation. The psychological impact has been as significant as the tactical advantages. Enemy forces report being confused and overwhelmed by encounters with dual-wielding coalition troops. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Humans learned a long time ago that unpredictability is a weapon itself. If your enemy can't predict your actions, they can't plan effective counters. The hall's communication system chimed, announcing an incoming priority message. Admiral Korvex's image appeared on the main display, addressing the training session directly. Instructors and students, the Admiral began, I wanted to personally congratulate you on the success of the Human Combat Integration Program. Coalition forces using dual-wielding techniques have achieved decisive victories in 17 separate engagements this month. Cheers went up from the mixed species class, each expressing enthusiasm in their own cultural way. More importantly, Admiral Korvex continued, intelligence reports confirm that our enemies are beginning to fear coalition forces in ways they never have before. The psychological advantage of unpredictable tactics has proven as valuable as the tactical improvements themselves. Marcus felt a deep sense of satisfaction when he had first picked up two swords and asked, define can't. He had been driven by simple human stubbornness. He never imagined it would lead to a revolution in galactic warfare. However, the Admiral's tone became more serious. Our success has not gone unnoticed. Enemy forces are attempting to develop countermeasures to dual-wielding tactics. We must continue to innovate and adapt. After the Admiral's message ended, Marcus gathered his class for final instructions. Representatives from a dozen species stood at attention, each having mastered techniques that would have been impossible for their people just months ago. Remember what you've learned here, Marcus told them. But don't stop learning. Human combat doctrine isn't about memorizing specific techniques. It's about developing the ability to adapt to any situation. Take these concepts back to your units and keep evolving them. Captain Reshka raised her crystal in hand. Instructor, what happens when enemies develop counters to dual-wielding? Marcus smiled. Then we develop counters to their counters. That's what humans do, we adapt. And now, so do you. As the class was dismissed and students began filing out to their transport shuttles, Dr. Cassandra approached Marcus with a thoughtful expression. Instructor, I've been analyzing the long-term implications of what we've accomplished here, she said. We haven't just taught other species to dual-wield. We've taught them to think like humans. What do you mean? Adaptability, innovation, refusal to accept limitations. These are fundamentally human characteristics. By spreading human combat philosophy throughout coalition forces, we're essentially making the entire military more human-like in its thinking. Marcus considered this. Is that good or bad? Given our recent success rate against enemies, I'd say it's very good indeed. Commander HFY joined them as the hall emptied. Marcus, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. What's that? That first day, when you asked me to define can't, did you already know you could dual-wield, or were you genuinely curious? Marcus laughed. I knew I could do it. I'd been practicing dual-wielding since I was 12 years old, but I was genuinely curious about why everyone assumed it was impossible. And now I understand that most species never had to learn adaptation the way humans did. You developed in more stable environments, so you optimized for efficiency rather than flexibility. But when the environment kept changing, like it did on Earth, optimization wasn't enough. We had to learn to change with it. Dr. Cassandra nodded, which explains why human neural architecture developed the way it did. Your brains aren't just capable of dual-wielding. They're designed for handling multiple complex tasks simultaneously. Speaking of which, Marcus said, there's something else I should probably mention. Both aliens looked at him with interest. Dual-wielding is just the beginning. Humans have also developed techniques for fighting with 3 weapons. 4 weapons using feet as well as hands, incorporating thrown weapons into melee combat, and coordinating team tactics that treat entire squads as single adaptive organisms. Commander HFY's forearms went limp. How much haven't we learned yet? Dr. Cassandra, Marcus continued, how much storage space do you have in your databases? Several petabytes. Why? You're going to need more. Earth has developed over 3,000 distinct martial arts traditions, and we've barely scratched the surface. As the 3 of them walked out of the training hall together, Marcus looked back at the weapon racks that had started this entire revolution. The simple question, define can't, had led to the most significant military advancement in coalition history. But more than that, it had proven something important about